Okay, friends, here we go. We are almost at the end of this. We've got today and tomorrow, and today, what we're going to talk about is the beginning of Matthew 28. We're going to talk about the resurrection. So I'm going to read through it. We'll talk about some things as we go, and then we'll reflect on some things at the end. This is the most important part of the most important story that humanity has ever written. The most important part of the most important story. And we'll talk about why that is at the end. Now, after the Sabbath, remember Sabbath's on a Saturday, so this would be on Sunday. So after the Sabbath, toward the dawn of the first day of the week. So we act as if Monday is the first day of the week, Sunday is the first day of the week, and that is actually really, really important. It's important because what is happening in the resurrection? What is happening in the resurrection? But something new. It's a new week. It's a new era. It's something that is happening that has not happened before. So you have creation, and remember creation is 6 days and then a day of rest. And this is like the first fruits of the new creation. So just as God created the world once, and we have that in the story of Genesis 1, here is God creating something new, and that is a resurrected human. Paul tells us that he's the first fruits of a resurrected humanity. There'll be the other fruits that come from that, including us in the resurrection, okay? Dawn of the first day of the week. Mary Magdalene and the other Mary went to see the tomb. And behold, there was a great earthquake, for an angel of the Lord descended from heaven and came and rolled back the stone and sat on it. His appearance was like lightning, and his clothes white as snow. And for fear of him, the guards trembled and became like dead men. I mean, they're terrified. You would be too. I would be too. But the angel said to the women, "Do not be afraid, for I know that you seek Jesus who was crucified. He's not here, for he is risen, as he said. Come, see the place where he lay." And neither Mary Magdalene nor the other Mary said, "Oh yeah, that makes a lot of..." No. Nobody saw this coming. Then go quickly and tell his disciples that he is risen from the dead, and behold, he is going before you to Galilee. There you'll see him. See, I have told you. You know, those of you that have been tracking with kind of the geography of this is interesting. Remember, Jesus' story begins kind of down in the southern part of Israel. Jesus is born in Bethlehem. And then early on, the early stuff about Jesus as an adult happens over by the Dead Sea. Again, kind of the southern part in the dry, arid area. But then where do we spend most of the Gospel of Matthew? Up north in the lush region of Galilee. They then come back down south for the last week of Jesus' life and the death and the resurrection. And now where is he going to go in his resurrection? Where is he going to go? He's going to go up to the Galilee. So it's like, we'll see tomorrow, the mission is being relaunched out of Galilee, this northern region. Again, out of the dry, arid area and back into this lush area of growth. That's where he will rally his disciples to send them back out into the mission field. So they departed quickly from the tomb with fear and great joy. Doesn't that sum up so much of what it happens when we encounter God? There is fear, there's trepidation, like this seems bigger than what I can really handle. There's that intimidation factor of I don't know, like this seems not only bigger than what I can handle. This seems like something that is out of my control in a way that can be intimidating and scary, but also great joy. That's what it means to follow after Jesus. What it means to follow in his way. It's intimidating because you don't know exactly where he's going to lead, but there's joy that comes with it. And he ran and then ran to tell his disciples. And behold, Jesus met them and said, "Greetings." And they came up and took hold of his feet and worshiped him. Then Jesus said to them, "Do not be afraid. go and tell my brothers to go to Galilee. And there they'll see me. The most important part, the most important story ever told. Why is it the most important part of the most important story ever told? Well, the most important story ever told because, Jesus is the most influential person to have ever lived. We've talked about this. Why this part? If this did not actually happen, then this is like the greatest hoax that anybody has ever been able to pull off. Talking about billions of people deceived over 2,000 years, okay? If this is a hoax, it is the greatest hoax of all time by a long shot. And if it's true, then it changes everything. If it's true, then this Jesus stuff can't stay at the margins of our life. If it is true that he actually rose from the dead, if it is true that he is the first fruits of a new creation that we can begin to experience now and that we will experience in the new world, if it is true, then it changes everything, and our lives should become to be radically oriented around it. So either it is the greatest hoax of all time, or it is the greatest good news of all time. Now, there are times when, and you will see this tomorrow, the disciples still doubt in some ways. It seems crazy that we would believe this, right? So why do I believe this? Well, here's some really practical things. One, who were the first witnesses? These women. Women's testimony was not even admissible in court. Women were not considered to be reliable sources. In fact, you see in one of the other Gospels that even the disciples believe these women are just hysterical. If you are going to make something up, you are probably going to create more credible witnesses. Okay, there's that. 2, we have 4 resurrection accounts. They're all a little bit different. Now, they all have the same bottom line. The tomb is empty and people see Jesus. That's the bottom line. But they're all a little bit different, which again lends to the credibility of this actually. Because if you and I were to experience the same event and then write it down 2 decades later, likely while we would have the main point the same, we would differ in some of the details. I actually think that it points towards the authenticity of this. That very, very early on, you had people walking around telling this story, remembering it, and sharing it. What else do we have? We have the fact that people who claimed to see Jesus died because they claimed that Jesus was alive and did not repent of that testimony. Don't you think, at the point of the spear, that they would say, you know what, sorry, we made the whole thing up. There are lots of reasons that you can look to and say, this seems to have actually happened. Here's another reason. You have to explain somehow the first couple of centuries after Jesus. The fact that you go from a very small group of people following a would-be Messiah who's killed, to Christianity becoming so widespread that Constantine makes it the religion of the Roman Empire. And there are a lot of questions about whether Constantine's conversion was legitimate or not. I don't know. But if it wasn't, then the reason that he did it was to unite the empire, even though he didn't really believe it. Because there were so many Christians that this was the way to unite the empire. You go from Rome killing this man, scattering his handful of followers, to it growing to becoming the predominant religion in the Roman Empire. And this is the most important part. Without any use of violence. You may immediately think Crusades. Crusades are later. This happens without any use of violence. This thing spreads peacefully while it is being persecuted. These Christians are being killed. They are refusing to fight back, and yet it still spreads like crazy. Looking at this purely from a historical perspective, you have to somehow explain these first 3 centuries after Jesus' death. You have to explain what happened. And as one person puts it, I think this makes a whole lot of sense. If you have a unique movement within human history, which is what this is, then is it not possible that it was catalyzed by a unique event within human history, like the resurrection? Either this is the greatest con job of all time, or something really did happen here. What this pushes us towards, and this pushes against many of our common like understanding of the way the world works. What it pushes us towards is the possibility that there is more going on in the world than what we can understand just with our five senses. There is more going on in the world than just what we see, taste, touch, feel, and hear. There is truth that is deeply ingrained in the world that we can't fully comprehend, and that there is a spiritual reality to the world that we sense at times, and that we are told about through revelation, not the book, but like through divine revelation, God revealing things to us. And that though we cannot fully understand or grasp it, that we can admit the reality of it and admit our ignorance towards it, while also claiming to be true the things that have been revealed to us. It is actually an incredibly closed-minded mentality to have, to think that everything about the world is something that we can understand through the hard sciences, through the scientific method. Maybe we need to open our minds and say, there are realities in this world that we just don't fully understand. But ultimately what it comes down to is this. I think there are very rational reasons to believe in the resurrection. I outlined a little bit of that. N.T. Wright has a great lecture called Can a Scientist Believe in the Resurrection? Great. I would highly recommend that. But ultimately what it comes down to for so many of us is not only that, but also this. I don't know how to explain my life the last 19 years apart from the resurrection. I don't know how to explain some of the things that I've experienced and that I know that others have experienced. I mean, all the rational arguments in the world are important, and we need to study them, and we need to know them and to be able to articulate them. But at the end of the day, what it comes down to is that many of us have come to believe, because of the changes that we have seen in our lives, that Jesus really did rise from the dead. And that the same Spirit that rose him has changed our lives. That we have seen our lives change in ways that we did not intend, in ways that we could not have expected, but in ways that have been good for us and good for the people around us. We miss this often, but it's so important. The Spirit that rose Jesus from the dead, this is what Paul tells us, is the same Spirit that we have inside of us. Which means that if that is possible, what is not possible in your life? It doesn't mean that everything that you want to happen in your life will happen, but what is not possible? If that's possible. So as we sit and we reflect on this, and again, tomorrow we'll round this whole deal out, but as we sit and we reflect on the power of the resurrection, how is it that you have experienced that power in your life? And how is it that you hope to experience that power in your life and in the lives of others? And maybe it's time for us to pray some big, bold prayers that the Spirit that raised Christ from the dead will do work in our lives that is utterly miraculous also. Work in our world is utterly miraculous. It's been a longer one, friends, but the most important part of the most important story ever told. A story that we believe is the truth. God bless you, friends, and we'll see you tomorrow for the last one of these.